I am doing it, Jack. Why is it so complicated? What do you mean, turn round? Oh, you mean the iPad, sorry. Thought you meant me, right? Now, which button? The grey knob. Press it. I have pressed it. Yes, the light's on. No, the green one. Oh, it was on already. Oh. Can they see me? Am I on? Do I speak now? Oh, thank you, love. Well, hello, Muriel. Greetings from Spain. Thanks for your letter. It was lovely to hear from you. Rather than write a reply, Jack suggested I surprise you with one of these cyber recordings. So I hope I'm doing this right. Not quite sure at all. I'm glad that the move went well and that you settled into the village so quickly. It's a beautiful place, isn't it? I do miss it a lot, especially those long walks around Rutland Water. Never mind. To answer your question, Alicante is very pleasant, and Jack and his wife have been very welcoming. But I could do with a few days when the temperature isn't in the high 30s. I wasn't built for this weather. However, in the long run, I know I didn't have a choice, and we all have our crosses to bear. Now, talking of crosses, I had a letter from Cuthbert's wife, Ethel, last week. You may not have met her yet, but she runs the post office. You'll know her when you see her. She looks like Alma Cogan, but not in a good way. Anyway, she tells me that you've been asked to direct the next pantomime at Ethelred's. Muriel, don't touch it with a barge pole. I directed it 2 years ago, and it was the worst and longest 4 months of my life. A real nightmare. I had no idea what I was letting myself in for. The only Ethelred I'd ever heard of was King Ethelred. Well, he and our pantomime had at least one thing in common. They were both unready. I hated all the trauma, tears, and tantrums. It was like a Brexit debate at rehearsals sometimes. If there'd been half as much drama on the stage as off, it would have been one hell of a show. Weeks before the auditions, Julian, the vicar, who fancies himself as an actor, and his wife Eunice came round. They said it was a social call, so I showed them into the sitting room. I brought in some tea and biscuits, and I just started to pour when they came and sat either side of me on the sofa. A pincer movement. He spoke first. I wonder, he said, dunking his hobnob, if you've had any thoughts. I hadn't a clue. Thoughts, I said. About Cinderella, said Eunice. You know who's playing what? We thought you might need some... She paused. Oh, what's the word, Julian? Guidance, he said. That's right, guidance, she said. I must admit they were good, very smooth. Not in any detail, I said, although it did cross my mind that you'd make a good Baron Hardup. Honestly, Muriel, I could swear the room temperature dropped several degrees. Oh, he pouted eventually. I saw myself as an ugly sister. Well, if the truth be told, he's ugly enough for both. But, and I'm not just saying this because he's Baptist, his singing's even flatter than his sermons. Muriel, beware. If Julian's playing a dame, he refuses to shave his legs or his armpits, and that didn't go down too well, particularly at the matinee. Anyway, he gave this wintry smile. Oh, no, he said. I'd be quite wrong for Baron Hardup. Eunice, what do I always say comedy is? Right on cue? Eunice chipped in. Your forte, Julian. comedy is your forte. You see, he said, comedy is my forte, so I really would be much better off as an ugly sister. I found myself tossing for a while, arguing it, but he wouldn't hear of it. In the end, he asked, "Whose church hall is it?" So ugly sister it was. I'm not sure if he's still a member, but I cast someone called Clarence Short as the other sister. Well, he was short, all right, at least in the talent department. I don't know what it is about Clarence, but I never felt really comfortable with him. He knew a little too much about Denier for my liking, and he didn't need a stuffed bra, moobs to die for. Cinderella was sweet. That was Shelley, one of the Sunday school pupils. She was only young, but if she does it any more after that show, it'll be a miracle. Julian insisted I cast Dora, she's his organist, as the fairy godmother. Whatever else you do, Muriel, don't give her a part. Her false teeth kept slipping, so one night, without warning anyone, she sang her solo, "Nobody Loves a Fairy When She's 40, without them in. It was the most excruciating moment of the whole show, which was quite an achievement, as there was a lot of competition for that. Baron Hardup was nearly as bad, so avoid anyone answering to the name of Reginald Bradshaw. He took regular swigs from his hip flask in the wings. "To steady my nerves," he said. Well, it might have steadied his nerves, but it had the opposite effect on his legs. In the ballroom on the last night, he tripped over Prince Charming's foot and fell on top of the Queen. Got the only laugh of the night. I felt really sorry for Agnes. She'd only just had that hip done. And don't get me started on Prince Charming. He was a hypochondriac, very reluctant to put the slipper on Cinderella's foot. "Darren," I kept shouting, "Shelley's got a verruca, not coronavirus." And his costumes are far too bright. Anyone prone to migraines would have had to shut their eyes every time he came on. They were also a tad on the tight side, but I'd rather not go into details. I'll leave it to your imagination, which is more than I can say for his ballroom costume. Aside for Shelley, none of them really learned their lines. Just before the last show, they'd had so many prompts. I joked to Eunice, who was doing the prompting, that she should take a bow. I never thought she'd actually do it. Caused no end of fuss at the curtain call, and not a little unpleasantness over the Scotch eggs at the after-show party. "Muriel, they might tell you it's only 5 performances, but believe me, it will seem a lot more. You know the old saying, the show must go on? Well, when it comes to St. Ethelred's panto, I can only say bring back self-isolation. If you do get asked, emigrate. We have a spare room, and I know it's for a good cause." Well, I think that's my news and my warning about the pantomime. So I'll sign off. Goodbye, dear. Give my love to Derek. Hope his hernia's on the mend. Hasta la vista. Now, what do I do with this lot? I think just hit something.